what can we do? This is an example actually what it does. Thank you so much. And Seth, are you there? And all of you, bye-bye and thank you. And Nadine, Nicole, and Kate. And again, thank you, Stacy, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. It looks like Thess and Anne are
I'm here.
upside down.
Anne is here.
Yeah. Yes. You are. Yeah.
I have to.
Oh, good. That's better. Yes.
Wait 1 second. I got to do this.
And maybe you too. You could move it around. We see you upside down. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. And yes, here we are. And welcome, both of you. We felt strongly that also CUNY Stages, in a way, is represented. CUNY is a large university system with 21 colleges, but actually 16 or 17 of them have theaters. They have theater programs. It's not as well known. It's never been as richly endowed, like our private colleagues at NYU or Columbia, but nevertheless, it's important work, and the communities that are also served, whether it's Lehman College, John Jay College, LaGuardia, the Baumrin Community College, Staten Island, Brooklyn College, the programs our colleagues put on it is stunning. But of course, today, we went right away for this event to Seth, who has been engaging in a way for a long time, in a deep way. And it's not just because of now what happened. And so I would like to welcome both of you. And Seth, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and about your work.
Thank you, Frank. I will tell you, I'm the chairman of our—
Vernice, yeah, hello.
Is Vernice here?
Yes, he just joined. Hello.
Oh, hooray.
Hi, Frank.
Hello, everybody. Briefly, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, we are Criminal Justice College, and therefore our theater program is a minor. We don't give degrees, but we do the kind of theater research that other universities are not doing, because we're focused on theater for social change. We're looking at theater not merely as one of the humanities, but more research-oriented, more backgrounds in the social sciences. We have a program called Performance and Justice. My research is very broad, but it did take me into Ukraine on and off over the years, where I met some fascinating people who we're going to talk about. And then what happened, what brings Anne into this conversation. Vernice and I both graduated from Hunter College, by the way, a shout out to Hunter. And then
Hunter, yeah, Greg Mosher, a great theater man.
Harold Flurman used to be on that faculty. Yeah. Well, in any case, I had started directing again in about 2015. Anne and I were joined together in Paris to do some work. And then we went down to Vienna to show the work. And some of the people in Ukraine actually came to Vienna to see the work, on the theory that maybe I could bring the work into Lviv and work with the internally displaced people. And I thought this was—
So the idea is internationally displaced actors.
Internally displaced.
Internally.
In other words, the people that Anne and Vernice and I were working with were already involved in the Maidan. Our translator was one of the organizers of the Maidan in Lviv and in Kiev, and she was at 19 a crack translator. Her mom is Mea Harbuziak on the faculty at Ivan Franko. The group changed around a little bit, our membership changed around, but we had gotten the invitation and Vernice joined the group, and around January 2016, we prepared to go down there with something that we'd created on the condition we could give a workshop to young folks. And well, we went down there and we just immediately got to work. It was ice cold the whole time. And Anne and I were talking earlier today, and we were trying to get prepared in those days to teach people what we had been teaching ourselves, cross-section of various trainings and work on voice. Ultimately, one of our members was a little nervous about teaching, and I said, look, they're much better than we are. We really just have to go down there and be with them. And we had some incredible experiences just as human beings. And we learned the city from the guts of the theater out.
Fantastic. First, let's ask Vernice and also Anne. Vernice, how did you come to that project?
As Seth was saying, he extended the invitation to me. We were at that point working in France with Anne and several other of the company members. And Seth invited me in. And so we ended up leaving from Paris after we had been working on our own practitioner project. We went down to take that project and at the same time to continue working on this piece that Seth had begun to build with the students there.
In Ukraine.
In Ukraine. So we went to Lviv, and that's where we spent most of our time building with, I think there were maybe 6 of us altogether. Anne, do you remember how many we were?
Oh, yes, I think it was 6, yes.
And how did you connect to Seth?
Anne and I connected through another colleague that I'd met up at one of Eugenio Barba's symposiums in, I think, 2014. And so we started hatching this idea of what we could do, with the sort of interdisciplinary work from various theater trainings. And so my colleague who I'd met in Denmark said, "You've got to meet Anne." And ultimately, Anne stayed with the group. In fact, she's still working with us now on different projects. So Anne just came in pretty much blind to everything. I told her what we were interested in. She said, "I'll do it."
Mm-hmm. So, and you are connected to Subpoetics International. Tell us a bit about that.
It's a wow.
Maybe Anne, is she frozen? Can you hear us, Anne?
No, I'm here.
Tell us a bit, yeah.
It's people coming from different countries, speaking different languages and meeting on the stage, and each one with his own languages. So in the performance, there were English, German, Russian, and Spanish, many languages. So it was about to create another language who's stronger than the language we speak, and the body language is stronger.
Mm-hmm. So you all went together, and next to the work, you worked in France, and you created something new in Lviv. So tell us about the project. What was it exactly about? Any one of you?
Well, it was I'll feel this. It was at a moment where the global migration had really caught fire. And so even as you went through Europe, you would see a lot of people who were displaced on the streets of Paris. I saw families, in Lviv, that you didn't see that. But that was the story we were creating from these actors who came from all these different places, including, where was Ali from?
That's from
Tehran.
Yeah. And so there were people who had access to these stories of displacement. And it was almost like we were in the safety of Lviv, creating the story about people who were displaced. And the students in Lviv were going through their own sense of displacement. And so there was all these levels of connections that were happening. But our piece was called, we were doing Port d'Alger.
We called it Port d'Alger 1963 because we were focused on things that we could connect from our present world back to the uprising in Algeria in those days. And also we'd used photographs from the uprising to make our physical positions.
A physical score.
Physical
Yes.
score, yeah, rakursi, as Mayor Holt would have called it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was unique about our group, Frank, was that each actor was a well-formed performer themselves who could hold a solo themselves. And so we brought our individual stories and ideas together And Seth created different tropes from which we found a physical score, and that united the telling of the different characters that we were bringing to life. And the kids, so we were working on that play while at the same time working with the young people on building their own story, which was vastly more energetic than our piece.
So Seth, tell me, you're in New York City. I think 400 languages are spoken. New York City has 13 million people. Why do you felt strongly, let's go to Ukraine for my work?
I will tell you personally, I have two reasons. But first, my family comes from Sli, which is just south of Lviv, and we're from the old rabbinic world. So 100 years ago,
it's your homeland, your family
essentially,
comes from
yeah. And I knew of it through stories, and eventually I went to these places, and I saw some fascinating just things about what remains of Jewish life, what happened to Jewish life, what's going on in these cities now. Stri was the first city in Ukraine to fly the Ukrainian flag after I think the Orange Revolution, but certainly after the Maidan. And the other thing is that when I understood my research on Grotowski wasn't taking me where I wanted to go, which is more deeply into the ways in which secret police either support or interfere with the performing arts. Everybody said, you've got to do the research on Les Kurbas in Ukraine. And that's what really brought me in there in a way that, first of all, I could justify all the research and also get the feeling of belonging in my homeland that I could never have gotten just through family conversations. So these two things were real motivating factors. And as Vernice said, the energy of the people was even more motivating. The students, actually, that Vernice and I and Anne were working with, I had followed through their 4 years of university because I was doing my research, and everybody seemed to know these students. And indeed, I got a Fulbright to do their graduating projects with them, which is quite another story. I want to focus more on what we were doing.
Tell us about, the Les Kurbas Theatre, your research. What is that theater?
In 1907, it was a cabaret theater, and it had a lot of different functions, but now it's a state theater. I'll remember, I think Kuczynski is the director. And so we became friends. But the point is that that's now a state academic theater linked to the Ivan Franko University, but also with a great repertoire. But I remember in the days that Vernice and I and Anne were there, and even before, they were already raising money for not merely internally displaced people, but to support various people who were soldiering. And indeed, now, just to put it in the conversation, one of our most important members from the original thing is now, in the military. So these young students are now, the weapons are in their hands. They're running various safety centers, hospital, helping people. And the Kurbas Theatre and Les Ukrainska Theatre, both state academic theaters, are doing that, and they're creating new repertoire. Which, if you go on their websites, you can find out about. It's very important. But my motivations are quite different from Vernice's and Anne's. I'm just telling you about how I came into it.
Yeah. And why did you join and went to Ukraine early on?
First, I followed Seth and his crazy ideas. And also, it was just after the terrorist shooting in Paris, and it was this need to tell the story we were telling around the world, and that is getting outside of Paris, and that was my needs at this moment, and seems very relevant. And in fact, what was not shocking, but it's amazing for me is when I met these young people who are actually living in the country who at this time was already at war, but it's more silent war. They were ready to fight for democracy, for their countries, and that to see these young people who are 20s and so committed to democracy was, quite a strong memory.
So what did you learn being in Ukraine? What did you learn about Ukrainian theater? What did you all learn from being there?
I'm European and it's Europe. I felt like it's my continent, and I didn't felt any differences between being in France or being in Ukraine. And that was, yeah. And all these young people also, I had nothing to learn to them. They had such skills, great singers. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, like Anne is saying, the skill level of the students really, I found surprising. I had no idea that they would be of that high caliber of performance. And I'm Jamaican American, but I've spent a lot of time in Europe. Nonetheless, what I found, some of the impressions that I was left with, which are now quite disturbing to me, was the meeting of the old and the new in this Ukrainian city, where so much of the city, the architecture, the feel, the smell was old, but the kids were new and they were far more adept at technology and ideas, and their creative response into the world was fresh and unique and bright and vibrant. And so the juxtaposition of these two things really turned me on. And to see now the leveling of these cities, that for me, it meant so much to see and to smell, to touch, that to see that being destroyed is just so painful.
Seth, how is this for you looking at this war?
I've had, Frank, a number of different responses. The first level response to me is the devastation for people, just human beings, what's going on. The second level is the devastation for people that I know and what they must be going through, and seeing places that I recognize in the media and how that resonates. But then there's also the complexity of me being a Black person who had been in Ukraine in Black skin and having experienced racism there. But because I had such beautiful experiences with the young people we worked with and the adults within the theater circle, I was so well taken care of that these two experiences, existed there for me. And so for me, the response is very, very multi-layered. It's not just one response. It's like these deep responses that constantly question our humanity.
Yep. Seth, if you
I'm thinking about what Vernice said, and it's true. My experiences were quite different, and I learned much better than anywhere else that I worked that when it's time to go, you snap your fingers and you go. The most important two words I ever learned in my life, I don't know what they are in Ukrainian, but let's go. I mean, that was the attitude. And then once you get there, you look at the materials you have, and then you snap your fingers and say, let's go again. I think that the youth and energy of the people that we were working with gave me an incredible new lease on life and a resilience to things that I didn't have resilience to before. Because if you look, for example, at the outrageous history of anti-Semitism throughout Eastern Europe and the shtetls and all of that, many people would ask me, why you want to go back to a place where they killed your people over and over again? And that didn't really enter into my mind. When you really look at the situation, it's just far more complicated. And so I was compelled to get involved in a historical situation that had little to do with my identity as a white male from New York. So, for Vernice and I, we worked together a long time. We were always approaching the same situation, but from such opposite perspectives. And in Ukraine, both of us just had to, turn on the workflow. And that was the best thing I think I've ever done in my life as an artist. I was so grateful for the opportunity. And we can talk about personalities in Ukrainian theater, but we didn't know that the great personalities of Ukrainian theater had opened up that door for us. We were just there to work. And it was so an honor, an absolute honor. And watching the cities get destroyed and hearing that some of the people that I knew had resurfaced. Some of our actors are in bunkers now, secretly carrying on communications and things like that. We can't even talk about it. So the now of that is the now of now, and I'm very, very pleased that I could actually say to the people that I work with in Ukraine, you can take this and you can do whatever you want with it. So we have an NGO down there named Gershom Theatre. It does what it wants. And the spawning of new projects is something that I just want to foster in ways that the students give us the creative idea. And I say, let's go. That's my attitude.
You're also working on a musical project or even creating a theater in Lviv. Is that, you mentioned that. What is that about?
Well, we're doing a lot of different things. First of all, we did take over a building and we kept it alive. And then we brought new members into the group who are not this original 13, but the singers and the whole dance community came out because of the movement exercises. Ultimately, we had to let the theater go, but the groups stayed together. And then we would go back and forth between Ljubljana, was sort of our second city, and Lviv. And ultimately, we would have a symposium once a year with performances, workshops, etc. And then 2019 hit, and it was impossible to get going on that again. And then it dawned on me, we could do it like we're having this conversation now. Everybody makes a very short 90-second to 2-minute video with a prompt from various poetry, but they don't have to use the poetry in the piece. So they can dance it, they can sing it. There's a lot of different stuff going on, but this is new. And it's the fact is that 50% of our 106 members are from Ukraine. So 50% of your members, go ahead.
You have 100 members in that new theater you created, that theater community in Lviv.
Half are in Lviv, but we have some in Burkina Faso, Tokyo, France,
New York,
USA. I forgot about USA, right?
That's amazing. And I remember I said, you read something or from a text or something, and you said, Frank, you don't understand how we work. We work in a different way. What's that different way?
Well, to summarize it rather quickly, if I get a piece of text, I have to match it to the actions. I'm an actor. Or if I get a score of actions, it should be useful with any piece of text. When I learned this from Torger Vettal at the Odin, Vernice learned it, I think, from Roberta Carreri. So we began to work this way. And the simple act of justification, which is something that Klorman introduced to us, we tried it in many different ways. And it's especially important when you don't know the language that you're working in, so that the physical language should be able to justify anything. Vernice and I argue about this, but we both agree that it's what we are constantly focused on in the work that we do. And Anne got it. She understood it better than we did.
And just to add on to what Seth is saying, what's really unique about the work that we do is that we are very internationally centered, in that we are pulling on all of us from the various countries and tapping into our common humanity and recognizing that these stories of injustices that we're exploring are not new. We're exploring the human condition and using our art to hold up a lens at the same time for us to meet each other. Like Anne said, we meet on the floor, we bring ourselves into the theater. And, right now I'm working with the Romanian playwright, Saviana Stănescu. And she's written this beautiful play that Heartbeat Ensemble is producing called Bee Trapped Inside the Window, about domestic slavery here in Connecticut in the USA. And this issue is not just here. It's like wherever there's injustice in the world, we have artists who respond, who hold up the mirror and says, is this who we really are? Is this who we want to be? And Subpoetics International is doing that in a very global way.
Yeah. So if you cannot do it now, obviously, and who knows for how long in the Ukraine, Anne and Seth and Vernice, where will you do your work, or where will the group come back together? Will Ukrainians join?
Now, we're doing our work on our website.
On the website,
a 4-part series called "Will You Love Me" in December, as you did in May. And we've got episode 1 and 2 already out there. Yes, we're charging a little $5 membership thing, but you can be sure that $5 is recycled into supporting the artists. We're going to put together episode 3. Frank, it's Subpoetics International. It's Squarespace. I don't know it right off the top of my head, but I'm perfectly happy for people to contact me to find out about it at my university email address.
Mm-hmm.
And Vernice is also doing some exquisite work with one of our sister companies in the United States, and it's called A Laboratory for Actor Training. So these are the places where you can see the kind of work that Vernice and Anne and I have been involved with and are continuing.
Mm.
But it's on TV now. That's basically it.
That's it. Yeah, so you reinvented the genre and you adapted to that new times after Corona, or still the time of Corona we live in. I think President Biden said 100,000 Ukrainians will come to the US. Do you think some of your actors will come over?
One is already here. I believe so, but I think it's actually the case.
Are you reaching out to them? Are they reaching out to you?
I'm working with them, of course. Yeah, we're working together. We're creating episode 3 of Will You Love Me in December, as you did in May. And one of our Ukrainian members will be working with one of our members from Burkina Faso, who are both here in the United States. Sanctuary or not, they're working hard, and they believe that family members will come, and I've opened my doors to one family.
That's incredible. I mean, that's quite stunning, but also in a way represents the spirit of the city of New York, that in a way it's very local, but on the other hand, it always has the global, the planetary scope in mind. I think it was Tony Kushner who actually joined us today with Oscar, who said New York is the melting pot that never melted. And there's some truth to it, but perhaps is this time, that time of Corona, the time now of a war, perhaps the temperature is going up and that leaden structure is melting and we are getting together and new fusions are coming out. I think it's really of interest. Also the fact that your college is named of criminal justice, which is in a way also a mission for the theater, to get justice. For criminal acts. There will be war tribunals. There have been. Milo Rao staged many trials, might be also an inspiration, where he had live real actors but real actors in the sense of who were accused. He did this in Moscow, the Moscow trials, the Pussy Riot jail sentence. So he restaged it secretly in the Sakharov Center with real judges and prosecutors and lawyers. And there's a lot to do, and perhaps this could also be one of the engagements in your great work at that College for Criminal Justice to find a way to bring truth to light. We are already a little bit in our next segment, so we have now with us the next group, and it is the great Nuyorican Poets Cafe, who is joining us. Daniel Gallant, who was formerly the director, could not be with us, but we have the great Kimberly Ramirez with us, J.F. Siri, and Paul Latour. And so say hi to Seth and Vernice and Mourier from France, right? It's almost midnight there or past, where they touched, and they talked to us about their work in Ukraine over the decades, almost for many, many years. They have been engaging there and created work, created a theater company, an international one, and now, of course, all the rules have changed. Everything is different. So thank you for joining us, and Seth and Vernice and Anna. We move over.